Hello Merfolk fans, my name is Joe. Thanks for tuning into my channel. I had a fun game against a Mardu strategy yesterday where I really got to flex my muscles with Sea Gate Wreckage. Now, Sea Gate Wreckage is a card that I've been promoting on Reddit for the last couple of months, only to find a wall of skepticism in response. The vast majority of Merfolk players seem to think that the circumstances in which we could activate Sea Gate Wreckage are extremely narrow and rare. We would need to satisfy the conditions of A, having enough mana to activate the Sea Gate Wreckage to begin with, B, having an empty hand, and C, not wanting to use our mana to do other things like activating Mutavault and attacking. Now, my testing has shown that to be just wrong. I find myself activating Sea Gate Wreckage maybe once every couple of days, and I play only maybe 2 to 5 matches a day, if that. So getting not only to play a Sea Gate Wreckage that often, but also getting to activate it has proven it to, itself to me to be a really powerful effect that can give us access to game-winning card advantage, especially against decks like mid-range strategies and control strategies that really try to draw out the game and keep our board empty. Sea Gate Wreckage in those instances can keep us drawing 2 cards per turn instead of 1 card, allowing us to continue applying pressure and close out games that we would otherwise have no chance winning. But it also comes up in lots of random games against even aggressive strategies. So I'll go ahead and start this replay. We can look at the opening hands. I lost the die roll, and on the draw, this is a solid keep for Merfolk. We have a Mutavault, which can allow me to play both of my Ether Vials and get Curse Catcher, Master of the Pearl Trident, and Merfolk on the table as 1, 2, and 3 drops. It's a very nice curve. The only spell in hand other than those is a Spreading Seas, and it only requires me to hit 1 blue source to be able to potentially screw the opponent's mana and turn Island Walk on. So this is a good keep on the draw. The opponent on his side has 3 lands which give him access to all 3 of his colors, and a really nice curve of Inquisition of Kozilek into Young Pyromancer, into a turn 3 Kolaghan's Command or Lingering Souls, either of which would make a token with Young Pyromancer on the table. So we both decide to keep. It's shaping up to be a pretty good match. The opponent is going to open with Godless Shrine, taking his life total down to 18, and Inquisition of Kozilek. I'm going to keep my hand as revealed to the opponent open on the right side of the battlefield, just so we can keep track of what information the opponent has access to. He chose Spreading Seas, so I remove Spreading Seas from the list of cards that he has information about. On my turn, on my first draw step, I hit an island, which is great because we usually want access to blue mana. But I choose to play the Ether Vial using the Mutavault, which the opponent had information about already. So the opponent drew a Marsh Flats as his 4th land, and this turn he chooses to crack an Arid Mesa and play his Young Pyromancer, with his life total going down to 17. I untap on my second turn, move Ether Vial up to 1 counter, and draw a Merfolk, which is great because the triple Lord effect is going to make all of our creatures really big and hopefully allow us to leverage an advantage quickly and just close out the game sooner rather than later. We play our island, and the opponent can see that we've drawn into a land. Tap the Mutavault to play an Ether Vial, and after some consideration, I decide, since this is a Mardu strategy, and one of the most powerful cards that Mardu plays is Kolaghan's Command, I want to get Curse Catcher on the board right now. And since I have nothing else to do with the mana, I choose to tap the island to actually cast the Curse Catcher now instead of activating the Ether Vial, potentially just representing that I might have another Curse Catcher in hand. The reason we don't wait until the opponent's end step to activate the Ether Vial in a sort of much more traditional fashion is if we do so and he leaves his mana open, he can respond to the activation with Kolaghan's Command, destroying an Ether Vial and making me discard one of my valuable lords before I ever get access to Curse Catcher's ability. So we put Curse Catcher on the table now in order to circumvent potential Kolaghan's Command on turn 3. Looking at the information the opponent has, he has now seen both Ether Vials. He has seen the Mutavault, and now he has finally seen the Curse Catcher. That's going to be it for our turn. We pass to the opponent. He draws a Lightning Helix for the turn. and chooses to play his Marsh Flats and cast Lightning Helix, targeting the Curse Catcher. Kind of a rookie move. I can just counter it by sacrificing the Curse Catcher. I don't even have to actually counter the effect. The opponent doesn't quite understand this. He sacrifices his Marsh Flats, gets a Plains to pay for it. Once I explain it to him that there's no target and it won't resolve, resulting in no life gain, I think he realizes he doesn't have anything that he can use the white mana for this turn, so he just leaves the Plains tapped and attacks with his Young Pyromancer. I go down to 18, and he passes the turn. On my turn, during my upkeep, I move the Aether Vials up to 2 and 1. I draw a Sea Gate Wreckage, which, remember, is going to sort of be the center of the later part of this game. I'm going to show you guys how it can come into play, even in pretty fast matchups, not just in the grindy matchups. And again, after consideration this turn, I decide that I'd rather not play out a Merfolk. The opponent playing a Mardu strategy, we not only have to play around Kolaghan's Command, but also Lightning Bolt. If we were to play the Merfolk this turn, if the opponent untaps and Lightning Bolts the Regery, I only have access to 1 Aether Vial, bringing in 1 Lord, making their toughness 3. The Regery would still die to the Lightning Bolt. If instead I wait until next turn, the Aether Vials will be on 3 and 2. I'll be able to cast the Merfolk and pass the turn, and then in response to any removal, I can bring in 2 more Lords, making them all 4/4s and hopefully playing around any removal. So this turn, I just choose to activate Mutavault and attack, chipping away at the opponent's life total. I considered it unlikely that he would block with his 1/1 token. The opponent untapped and drew into a Monastery Mentor, and we can begin to see more that the opponent is playing a very tokens-centric deck with Young Pyromancer, Lingering Souls, and Monastery Mentor backed up with a lot of removal spells. In Lightning Helix, Kolaghan's Command, Lightning Bolt, Path to Exile, all those spells. The opponent starts by attacking me for 3. I'm obviously not going to block. I take 3, go down to 15, and in the second main phase, the opponent plays a tapped Sacred Foundry and chooses to leave his mana untapped for Kolaghan's Command on my turn. Now, following up on the strategy that I outlined during my turn, I'm not going to choose to activate this Aether Vial to bring in the Master of the Pearl Trident on my opponent's end step, because I'm trying to establish a high toughness with my creatures by waiting until next turn and deploying all of them at once with the Aether Vial. If I were to put this guy on the table right now, he'd be extremely vulnerable, and we can see the Kolaghan's Command in his hand would kill an Aether Vial and kill our Lord. So I keep it in hand, go ahead, untap, move the Aether Vials up to 3 and 2, and for the turn I draw the 4th land, which is very nice because it'll allow me to get Sea Gate Wreckage online. So I'm going to play the Sea Gate Wreckage, reveal the Regery. Sorry, play the Wanderwine Hub, reveal the Regery, and play the Regery. Pass the turn, and the opponent chooses at this point to play Kolaghan's Command. For the modes, he chooses to target the Regery and make me discard a card. Now, at this point, he doesn't know, well, he only knows about the Master of the Pearl Trident because I played one of the Regeries. But having information about this Lord in my hand, he should have chosen a different mode than shooting 2 damage at Merfolk. Even if he went to my face with this, it would be a better choice. He already has information that tells him this is not going to die, and it just seems a little bit silly. So in response, I get to activate both Aether Vials. All my creatures become 4/4s, effectively countering the Kolaghan's Command because now I have an empty hand. I'll begin to get Sea Gate Wreckage online, and the opponent begins to fall behind. However, they draw into a Path to Exile, which is very good because they can play their Monastery Mentor and cast Path to Exile, removing one of my Lords. However, since he's not attacking this turn and doesn't need to worry about my creatures on his turn, he really should have saved Path to Exile for my upkeep so that the land that I get would not be available for me to use next turn. So I go ahead and get my island. My creatures become 3/3s again. The opponent chooses not to attack. On my upkeep, having already seen 2 3-drops in my Regeries, I know I only have 3 left in the deck, 2 more Regeries and 1 Kira. However, I have 4 Master of Waves in the deck, so the probability of drawing a 4-drop is higher than a 3-drop. So I'm going to go ahead and move this Aether Vial up to 4, leave this one on 2. And with these ether vials active, it's going to be better to wait until after my draw step to activate Sea Gate Wreckage, because I'll most likely be able to deploy any creature I draw through the ether vials, and if I draw land, I can just play that after the draw step. It's always best to save plays until you have as much information as possible. So in this case, as I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and move the ether vial up to 4. I consider activating the Sea Gate Wreckage during the upkeep with an empty hand. But again, with the ether vials on the table, it's going to be better to actually go past our draw step before activating Sea Gate Wreckage. We can see that my approach was justified. I drew into a Master of Waves, which I'm going to get to play at instant speed with ether vial. And I choose not to activate Mutavault to attack this turn. He does have decent blockers on the table, and we want to leave our colorless mana available to activate the Sea Gate Wreckage and start developing card advantage. So I certainly didn't want to attack with either of my lords and trade with elementals. So the opponent draws a tapped land. Certainly not his best top deck, but he is going to get to play a Lingering Souls, which will create an elemental from Young Pyromancer, a monk token from Monastery Mentor, and 2 spirits with Lingering Souls itself. So the opponent himself is developing a pretty frightening board, but I'm going to be able to follow up with tokens of my own when the Master of Waves enters. The opponent considers some attacks, but ultimately decides against it and chooses to end his turn. I bring in the Master of Waves. With 4 Devotion, he makes 4 Elemental tokens, and with an empty hand, I can now go ahead and activate the Sea Gate Wreckage. So I do so, drawing into a Silvergill, which is wonderful because I have an active Ether Vial with 2 counters. The Silvergill enters the battlefield as a 4/3 and draws me into a card. It's another Master of Waves, which we can use with our Ether Vial, again keeping us on mana to activate Sea Gate Wreckage. We go past the draw step, hit a Lord, which is among the best possible draws in this spot because we have an Ether Vial on 2 and an Ether Vial on 4. We can deploy both of these creatures while also keeping mana up to activate Sea Gate Wreckage. So this turn, I decide that the best approach is to attack with all of the 2/1s, trying to lure the opponent into blocking with his 1/1s, bringing in the second Master of Waves in response to make my elementals 3/2s and blow out his elementals. This is the approach that I took, attacking with the elementals, drawing blocks with his 4/1/1s. Typically, trading 1/1s for 2/1s would be wonderful, but I have the second Master of Waves, which blows out the opponent. All of his elementals die, mine all live, and the second Master of Waves creates 6 more elemental tokens as 3/3s. The opponent, for his turn, draws into a Lightning Bolt. Doesn't look very strong at this point. When he tries to cast it, I can respond with Ether Vial to bring in my last Lord, making all of my Merfolk outside of Lightning Bolt range, and with 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 elemental tokens as 3/2s, that's 30 power, and then after bringing this Lord in, we'd have 4, that's 12 plus 15, 27 plus 30, something like 57 damage next turn if we add the Mutavault, getting as a 6/6. I kind of lost track, but it's over 60 damage. In response to this Lightning Bolt, I can bring in the other Lord to save him, and at that point the opponent scooped. An enormous blowout, just totally steamrolled over him, and you can see that even if he had spells to keep up with me, I had access to more card draw with Sea Gate Wreckage at this point. So yeah, Mardu tokens, I got to activate Sea Gate Wreckage. Drew me into a Silvergill, which accelerated my card draw, and the 2 Ether Vials allowed me to continue emptying my hand and continue having access to card draw with the Sea Gate Wreckage. So for those of you who are doubting the power of the card, I feel that this game is one example, one demonstration of how it can do a really great job in a Merfolk deck. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe and share any comments that you might have, and I'll catch you in the next video.